when decentralization, and I mean that from the perspective of use cases, okay? So I think we're collectively getting better at understanding when decentralization adds value. Audius has found a hidden nerve, right? And Roneil, maybe you could talk a little bit about that use case and why it's, you know, there's been this community that's gathered around it. It makes a ton of sense. And then everyone else too, please weigh in, because I think that's the other piece of this, is finding these anchor points or the low-hanging fruit, and then others will follow.
Yeah, so for us, the value prop of Audius is honestly pretty simple. Artists have a lot of content in their catalog that for whatever reason they can't distribute in places. In some situations it's because of nation states saying that they should not be able to distribute it. In other cases, you know, you might be able to imagine what that means, but we've found kind of this very specific use case right now, which is electronic musicians. So like Deadmau5, Blau, and a number of others who have signed up with Audius so far, they're able to put like parts of their back catalog that are unreleased for a variety of reasons onto Audius and distribute that to their fans. Fans like it because they're getting exclusive content from these big artists that they can't find anywhere else, right? So it's honestly pretty simple. But what was interesting for us, like if a core part of our value proposition is censorship resistance, there was like this chicken and egg that we had to overcome in the beginning, in that like we needed to launch straight away in a decentralized or very decentralized manner, right? In order to deliver on that promise. Like, artists needed to be able to trust that our company was not going to meddle with their ability to distribute here or deplatform them or what have you, in the way that they have on every other music platform that's come along before us. So that's I think why we kind of have struck this nerve. And I think that's where we have to look as a community. There are many other use cases where folks desperately need censorship resistance today, and that is what our open crypto economic systems that we have available to us can provide, right? It just requires obviously a lot of engineering work and other things to realize some of those opportunities, but they're there, right? There are plenty of them. And I hope that going forward, our community will focus more on serving the actual end users sitting and using these things, and not on like all of the layers of middleware that sit in between.
Yeah, I think what you're saying, what Audius does, it ties in really well with what we believe in Portis as well, which is decentralization. We see the best performing apps being the apps that don't talk about the fact that they're on blockchain. They're just using the fact that they have this immutability, they're unstoppable, interoperability, they have access to this way of transferring value without relying on getting the approval or the overhead costs of banks, credit card companies, etc., and can do interesting stuff you couldn't do it up until now because, hey, programmable money, right? This open as a programmer, you get excited when you hear something like that because money is always the part you kind of don't want to deal with when you're building an application. So once we start seeing, you're asking when decentralization, and I think decentralization will come when it's kind of like, you kind of have to stop thinking about it in a sense for the user. You just take the values that you get out of decentralization and you think what you can build with it and not the other way around. And yeah, I think that's, we're getting there, we're going there.
I think how we sort of look at it is sort of use case by use case as well. Like, at what point do, end users think, okay, well, I will trade off having someone to call in order to not have that same someone shut me down in the future. So which need is bigger, having someone to call or just not having the ability to be censored? So it really depends. I mean, it's really interesting to see what Audius has experienced with, artists. I think we see a lot of sort of, multi-party collaboration kind of, industries where we see a lot of interest and a lot of traction. Also on the enterprise side. So, really curious to see how this plays out as well.
Something for decentralization I think is important to also keep in mind is that Sometimes that is something that the end users are not really interested in, don't really care so much about. Certainly some of their activities just simply aren't so important to them to be worried about nation-state censorship resistance. But I think it's very important for us as developers and businesses, the decentralization, right? Because we do have a valid fear of our business competitors somehow finding a way to censor us and thus disrupt our business model. So in some ways, I tend to see the decentralization as something that's very important to developers who are building products and building companies, because you want your company, sort of like the days with Zynga on Facebook, you want your company to be resistant to some sort of massive change in the business sphere that you work in. Right? So maybe it's not as important to develop to end users, but it's critical for us as developers.
All right. Hey, excellent panel. Let's have a round of applause for our panelists here. And thanks all of you for coming outside of this.